Hi, welcome to another tip of the week from Zenatta Consulting. My name is Josh Oliver, and in today's tip, I'm going to show you how to integrate Shopify with Zoho Inventory. And I'm going to be taking this integration to the next level and showing you how to create invoices, payments, packages, and shipments within this integration, because those auxiliary records aren't created through the standard integration. So stay tuned, and I'll walk you through how to do this. All right, so step one, we need to make sure that Zoho Inventory is integrated with Shopify. And so to do that, we need to obviously log into Zoho Inventory, and then we're going to go into Settings, go down to Integrations. Under Shopping Cart, you will see an option for Shopify. So we're going to go ahead and set that up. And when we click Setup Now, it's going to bring us into the Shopify App Store. Click Add App. That's going to have us log into our Shopify account. And then we just click Connect Shopify. Connect Shopify one more time. And there we go. So after we have integrated, it only takes 5 seconds to integrate. You will see under active channels, there's a new store linked to inventory. So we can see Shopify is linked. And I'm actually going to click on this because I want to make sure the details are set up appropriately. So if I go into Show Details, we can see products are syncing over from Shopify into items in inventory. Orders are coming over from Shopify into inventory. And it's only bringing in the confirmed. I'm going to change this to confirmed and fulfilled because I want anything that's fulfilled in Shopify to also come over. There's a few other things you could integrate. So if you wanted to integrate locations, you could make that connection as well. I'm going to ignore those because I don't really care too much about locations. And then also, if you wanted to sync your stock from inventory into Shopify, you could do that as well. Right now, that is active. I'm going to go ahead and disable that because I don't want our Shopify account to be updated from inventory in our case, but maybe you have multiple sales channels all feeding into inventory and you want to make sure your stock count is based on your inventory stock, which would consider your other sales channels. So inside of Shopify, you want to make sure that your stock is deprecated based on the other sales channels that are feeding into inventory. So essentially, we have our products and we have our orders. Whenever an order syncs over, it's going to sync in the order. It's also going to create a contact and associate that contact to the order as well. But there's a few things that don't happen whenever an order is created. The main thing is whenever an order is created, it just is created in draft, meaning it's just added as a draft sales order and no invoice or payment record is associated to that order. And that's a big thing that's missing, I guess, with Shopify integration is most orders that come through Shopify are going to be paid. Shopify accepts payment on the cart itself, so we want to make sure that that payment is logged inside of Zoho Inventory appropriately. So to do that, we'll need to do a custom function. Workflow with the custom function to create both the invoice and the payment record associated to the sales order. It'll also update the sales order to be confirmed so that it's out of the draft state. Now that we have integrated Shopify, orders from Shopify are going to start feeding into inventory as a draft sales order. The next thing we want to do is we need to create, for our automation, we need to create a chart of accounts in Zoho Books that we can add our payments to. So now I'm going to hop into Zoho Books real quick, and I'm going to click on Accountant. Go to Chart of Accounts. If you already have a chart of account that you want to add your Shopify payments to, then you can choose that one and get the ID from that chart of account. We don't have one set up yet, so I'm going to click New Account, and I'm going to name this Shopify Orders. Certainly talk to your accountant first if they want you to use a specific chart of account or name this differently, then follow your accountant. But in this case, we are going to call this Shopify Orders. and this is going to be a income, and then we will go ahead and click save. After saving, we're going to go back into that Shopify orders account, and we want to get the ID of that order. So here, I'm just going to grab this ID, and this is what we're going to use in our next step to generate the invoice. Add that here, add a note. So now let's hop back into inventory, and we go to settings, automation, and we're going to generate a invoice. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this one because I am going to show you how we're going to do this from scratch. Custom function, create invoice from sales order. Let's just delete that one as well. All right, you know what? I'll just create a new one. So I'm going to create a new function. I'm going to call this Shopify create invoice from sales order. This is going to be linked to the sales order module. And in the description, I will link the code being used. But essentially, I'm just going to copy and paste this code, and we're going to modify just one thing in here. All right, so I've copied and pasted the code, and I want to make sure that the payment account ID here is the payment account from my chart of accounts that I set up in the previous step. Copy that here, and all this other information is templated, so you really don't need to make any changes here. The only thing you need to make sure is that you have a connection inside of inventory to Zoho Books, and it needs to be called Zoho Books, all lowercase, no space, no underscore. So in this case, to find your connections, click on Connections tab, and here we can see we have a connection to Zoho Books, but it's just titled Books. I'm going to create a new connection, search Books, and we need invoices. Actually, there's two things we could do. We could either create a new connection, or we could use the existing connection and just modify. So the connection link name is Books, and then we could just modify these to just say Books instead. That's what we'll do. You certainly could create a connection from scratch, but then you just need to make sure you select the appropriate scopes, which I don't want to go too deep into what is needed for that. Just make sure your connection name matches the one that's already there. Now that I have the function in here, I'm going to just go ahead and click Save. It says we are missing something. Line number 77. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, you know what? I sure am. We need a semicolon, so I'll make sure to update the code and make sure your semicolon's added there. Perfect. So now that that function has been written, before I actually go through, let me just share with you at a high level what this function is doing. So if you're not very code savvy, just kind of listen in. If you are, then you'll be able to kind of understand what's going on here. Essentially, the first step is we're converting the sales order to an invoice. That's what generates the invoice. Second step is we are going to update the invoice with the sales order date. So that's what this function is doing here. It's just taking the date from the sales order and updating the invoice. The next step is we are marking the invoice as sent. We're not actually going to be sending this to the customer. We're just marking it as sent. And then the last step here is we're creating the payment record linked to that invoice. And this payment record is also going to be linked to the payment account that we created earlier. So this account ID is what's linking it to that account. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. That is the function. It is good to go. The next step we want to do is create a workflow rule. Under Automation, just click Workflow Rules. New workflow rule, and we're just going to call this new Shopify order. This is going to be under the sales order module as well. Next, we are going to set this workflow to be based on an event. It's an event-based workflow trigger. It's going to be on create, and we're going to click next. In this case, you might not need a filter. Maybe all of your sales orders are coming in and you don't need to worry about whether or not the order is creating manually or from another channel. In this case, we do have orders that we create manually, so we would want to put in some sort of criteria to make sure that this function is only running on Shopify orders. So I'm just going to choose ref number because I know ref number is a field that's populated for Shopify orders. And we'll say is not empty. So this means if a sales order is created and there's a ref number, it's from a Shopify order, so I know to go ahead and proceed with this workflow. Next, the action we are going to add is going to be a custom function that we had just written. And we're going to choose that Shopify underscore create invoice from sales order. So that's the function that's going to run whenever a sales order is created and matches this criteria. Click save. Now, new Shopify order workflow is active, and we can wait for a Shopify order to come in, and we'll see that the invoice will be created and a payment record will also be created linked to that Shopify order. Now, the next thing that we want to make sure we are tracking inside of inventory is the package and shipment for Shopify orders. Certainly, we figured out how to log the invoice and the payment record, and that handles the accounting stock, but we need to also manage the physical stock as well. And physical stock is deprecated based on a package and shipment being sent out. So once a sales order is packed, that's going to remove the item from inventory. But to close out the sales order altogether, we need the shipment record to also be created. And then that is going to allow us to go into the sales order. We'll be able to click on the sales order and then the shipment, see the tracking code, and then we could even follow up on the delivery status from within Zoho Inventory. Because within this next step, I'm going to show you how to create a package and a shipment linked to a sales order inside of Zoho Inventory. And like I said, the shipment is actually going to contain the tracking number from Shopify. So this is a two-part workflow. First is the order comes in, it's marked as invoiced and paid. That's step one. Step two is we're going to create a workflow inside of Zoho Flow. And Zoho Flow is going to be triggered whenever a Shopify order is fulfilled. And when the order is fulfilled, it's going to find the sales order inside of inventory. It's going to mark it as packed and then mark it as shipped. And on that shipment record, it's actually going to add the tracking code. So to do this, we need to hop into Flow, flow.zoho.com. And then we are going to create a new flow. We're going to call this Shopify order fulfilled. And then this is going to be an app-based flow triggered on Shopify. Now, whenever we create this, I'll show you in a second, but we will need to create a connection to Shopify. And this is going to be when an order is fulfilled or fulfillment is created. Yeah, so when a fulfillment is created, we are going to trigger this. And we need to make a connection to our Shopify account. So we click connect. It's going to ask for a few things. So shop ID, this is the URL of your store. So shop ID is just, in this case, Rescue Rangers store. And then our API key, that is coming in from Shopify. So we need to find out where that comes from. The API key is coming from, if we go to apps and sales channels. So we just need to click this develop apps tab here. And then we are going to create an app. We're going to name this Zoho Flow. This is an app that we're connecting. And then we just click create app. Now that we've created it, we can go ahead and configure our admin API scopes. And then after this, we should be presented with credentials. Actually, let's just see. Oh, here we go. It looks like we already have our credentials here. So I'm just going to copy this and we're going to go back into Flow. So our API key, and then we also have our API secret. So these are secret keys. Be sure to never share your API keys or secret keys. And for anyone watching, this is going to be removed right after. So these keys will not work after this video is published. But just for demonstration purposes, this is how you do that. So then we also have an admin API access token that we need to add. And to get the admin API key, we need to configure our admin API integration. So we click configure, and we need to add some scopes in here. And I believe the only scope we need is to read the order, but let's see. We need to read the fulfillment, and let's also just make sure to read the order as well, if we can find that one. Read order, edit, read orders. Yeah, so I want to read that and the order. And I believe that's all we need to make this connection. So I'm going to click save. Now that is saved, I should be able to find the API, the admin key, which there it is right here. So it says we need to install to get the admin API access token. So let's just click install, install. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to paste this into the other field inside of Zoho Flow key. So I'm going to go ahead and click authorize now. It should work. Nope, still doesn't work. Let me try one more time. All right, I got it connected. There was actually an issue with my admin key. I didn't copy and paste the correct value, but let me show you where I got that. The admin key was here, and you can only access this once. So make sure whenever you do get your admin API key that you save it somewhere safe, and then you can copy that value. And then once you re-access this page, it will be revoked, so you won't be able to see it. You might need to delete this app and then recreate a new one if you did not capture that API key. So now we're going to hop back into Zoho Flow and finish this up. So in Flow, we have created the connection appropriately and as needed. And then our trigger, we're just going to name this trigger. That's what's coming in from Shopify. Basically, it's going to bring in JSON formatted data, which is a data map containing all of the values we'll need to push this data into inventory. We don't need any filter, so let's go ahead and just click done. And then the first step is we want to fetch the order. So inside of Shopify, or I'm going to search Shopify and I'm going to search fetch order. We're going to bring that block out here, and the order is going to be from the order ID. So then I simply search order ID in here. Here it is. And that is the order ID from the fulfillment that we're going to use to fetch the order in Shopify. Click done. The next step is we need to fetch the sales order inside of inventory. So now I'm going to search within inventory. Remove my little head here. Inventory. We're going to fetch sales order. Now we also need a connection to inventory. This one should go by fairly smooth, much smoother. Let's see. So Zoho Inventory. Go ahead and authorize. Because this is another Zoho app, it's just going to show a little pop-up that says accept. And then we are going to search by our reference number, because the reference number is the value coming into inventory from Shopify. And then the reference number is going to be the same as the order number. So then I'm going to fetch order, and it's the order number here. This is going to get us the sales order based on the reference number from Shopify. And the reference number, again, is just the order number. Click done. Now that we have the sales order within our flow, we can create a package linked to that sales order. So now I'm going to keep going down on this list here, and there should be a block here to create package. There it is, create package. Bring that down. And simply we are going to just say it's linked to the sales order ID. So that is, yep, there it is. Sales order ID. Package date is going to be the current date. So I'm just going to come up here and say current date because this flow is triggering whenever it's fulfilled. So I'm just going to say it's the current date. So it's going to create a package. And that's really all we need. It's going to create a package with all of the items from the sales order in one package. So that's one thing to know. If you have multiple packages, maybe you're splitting up your order into multiple packages. That's something to know is this flow might not work for you because this is going to create one package inside of inventory containing all of those orders. If you needed something else, then there's certainly a custom function you could write to get that to work. But in this case, it's just one package per order. Click done. Next, we are going to create a shipment order. So just scroll down a little bit here on the Zoho Inventory block, shipment order. Package ID is going to be from the package. So I search, and again, these are just variables. So it's a collection of variables. Each one of these are blocks we've added in our flow. And whenever I click on a block, so from my last block that we just created, which was the create package block, there's a list of variables from the package that we can use in this block. In this case, we want the package ID to be linked to package ID. Shipment date is going to be current date. So I can just come up here and say current date. Delivery method is going to come in from the tracking company field on the sales order. So actually on the fulfillment order, there should be a tracking company. Here we go. So that's the delivery method is coming from the tracking company. So that means if I'm fulfilling through UPS, it's going to show UPS on the delivery method. If it's USPS, then it'll show that here. And then again, we can link the tracking number here as well. And there's two different fields you could choose from. In this case, I'm saying that all of our packages are all of our orders are fulfilled in one package, so it's just tracking number. But if you had multiple fulfillments, then you might want to choose tracking numbers. But again, that's going to require some custom flow or custom functionality inside of this flow to make multiple packages. Our reference number, I'm just going to set that as the order number coming in from fetch order this here. You know what? I think this is actually coming from this one. Yeah, fetch order number. And this reference number could be anything that you want, but I'm just going to set it to order number. The shipping charge, that is a field we have on the fulfillment. So we should have a field in here called, that's actually created, that's from the order itself. So we should have a field in here that says shipping. Shipping price. Here we go. Here we go. So total shipping price. Yeah, it's this one right here. So shipping price, money amount. That's the one we're going to be using. There are a few other options. You could choose total shipping price set shop money amount. I think that's what you've charged the customer, but this is what you're being charged by your carrier. That's pretty much it. And then we're just going to go ahead and click done. Now we have a finalized flow. Order gets created, fetch the order, fetch the sales order, create the package, and then create the shipment order. Now we've finished the loop. So now inside of inventory, when a Shopify order comes in, we'll see the reference number, and you'll even see a little Shopify icon here. The order will be marked as invoiced and paid. And then whenever the order is fulfilled in Shopify, it will automatically get packed and shipped without you having to do anything, any other manual updates within inventory. Doing it this way, it's going to keep your accounting stock true and your physical stock true to what it should be within Shopify. And then any other channels you have feeding into inventory will be accurately accounted for. All right, so that's it. Now you know how to create that Shopify integration into Zoho Inventory. You're going to be a master at coding maybe now, and you've played around with some deluge code, you know how to create that invoice and payment record. We've also created a Zoho flow in which we'll create that package and shipments inside of inventory as well. And again, this is going to manage your accounting and physical stock as needed, and your accountant won't be upset with you. So thank you again for watching. And if you found this video useful, please click the like and subscribe button down below. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments below, and we'll make sure to answer those on our weekly podcast, Azaz, where we cover all questions that you guys have asked over the past week. Thank you again for watching, and have a nice rest of your day. Take care.